Welcome to EduCasts, home of EduCasters. If you sit down with a conservative educator today, they will have a lot to say about the current state of American schools. And they won't mince words. They will tell you that American education is in a crisis of mediocrity. 1. The therapeutic turn. They hate the shift toward schools becoming therapy centers. They argue that schools have become obsessed with self-esteem, social-emotional learning, and making kids feel good, rather than making them competent. The conservative famously said, "Self-esteem comes from doing esteemable acts. You don't get self-esteem by sitting in a circle and being told you're special. You get it by working hard, failing, trying again, and finally mastering a difficult math problem. By removing rigor and competition to protect feelings." Conservatives argue we are creating a fragile generation, what Jonathan Haidt calls the coddling of the American mind. 2. The loss of rigor. They will point to grade inflation. They will point to the fact that students can graduate high school without being able to write a coherent 5-paragraph essay or do basic algebra. They blame this on the progressive focus on engagement and fun over hard work. They argue that learning is hard. It's not always supposed to be fun. It requires grit, a very conservative virtue. By trying to make everything a game or a project, we are robbing children of the ability to focus, memorize, and persist through boredom. 3. The war on tradition. This is the culture war aspect. Conservatives feel that schools have been captured by political activists who are hostile to Western civilization. They look at the curriculum and see that Shakespeare is being removed because he's a dead white male. They see American history being taught as a story of pure villainy, rather than a complex story of progress. They see a rejection of traditional values in favor of radical new theories about gender and race. For the conservative, this is a betrayal. They believe the school should be a stabilizing force, transmitting the values of the community, not a radicalizing force that turns children against their own heritage and their parents' values. So let's walk into a model conservative classroom. Let's say it's a classical academy or a rigorous charter school, as that's where this philosophy is thriving right now. The environment. The room is orderly. It is quiet. The desks might be in rows or a U shape, but the focus is clearly on the front of the room. There are no beanbag chairs. There might be maps, timelines, and portraits of historical figures on the wall: Washington, MLK, Curie, Einstein. The teacher. The teacher is dressed professionally. They speak with authority. They are not trying to be the student's friend. They are the mentor. They clearly know their subject matter inside and out. The lesson. Let's say it's a literature class. They are reading a whole novel. Maybe To Kill a Mockingbird or The Odyssey. They aren't reading excerpts. The teacher leads a structured discussion. They check for understanding. What did Atticus mean when he said, "Open your books to page 45. Read that paragraph"? There is a focus on vocabulary. The teacher stops to explain difficult words. They believe that words are the tools of thought. There is a focus on grammar. Students might be diagramming sentences. The conservative believes you can't write well if you don't understand the structure of the language. The assessment. There will be a test. It will have right and wrong answers. There will be an essay. The essay will be graded on clarity, logic, evidence, and grammar, not just voice or creativity. The atmosphere. It feels serious. That doesn't mean it's mean or joyless. In fact, in the best conservative classrooms, there is a wonderful, serious joy, the joy of mastery. The students feel safe because the rules are clear. They feel proud because the work is hard and they are actually doing it. They aren't guessing what the teacher wants. They are being taught explicitly. Of course, this philosophy has fierce critics. To understand the full picture, we have to look at why conservatism makes so many people angry. 1. The dead white males problem. The biggest critique is that the conservative definition of heritage and great books is far too narrow. It focuses almost exclusively on Western, European civilization. Critics ask, where are the Asian voices, the African voices, the indigenous voices, women? When a conservative says, we must teach our culture, a Black or Latino student might rightfully ask, whose culture? By insisting on a traditional canon, Conservatives can make minority students feel invisible or alienated in their own schools. The tradition they are preserving often includes histories of racism and exclusion. Conservatives argue they are expanding the canon, but critics say it's too little, too late. 2. The drill and kill problem. In the wrong hands, essentialism can become incredibly boring. If a teacher focuses only on facts, dates, and memorization, school becomes a game of trivial pursuit. It kills creativity. It kills the spark of inquiry. Critics argue that the conservative model creates passive learners. Students become good at following orders and bubbling in answers, but they don't learn how to think outside the box, challenge authority, or innovate. In a modern economy that values innovation, this factory model of obedience and memorization might be a liability. 3. The static view of truth. Progressives argue that the world changes and truth evolves. Our understanding of gender, of biology, of history has changed. By clinging to traditional values, conservatives can end up teaching outdated or harmful ideas. For example, a strict conservative adherence to traditional gender roles in the 1950s made life very difficult for girls who wanted to be scientists or athletes. Critics argue that conserving the past often means conserving injustice. Despite these criticisms, conservatism is having a massive moment right now. We are seeing an explosion of classical academies, Latin schools, and charter schools explicitly built on this model. Why? Because parents are tired. They are tired of the math wars where their kids can't do basic subtraction because the school is trying to teach conceptual understanding first. They are tired of seeing spelling errors go uncorrected because the teacher doesn't want to stifle creativity. They are tired of the culture wars entering the classroom. Parents are flocking to conservative schools because they promise simplicity and excellence. There is something deeply attractive about a school that says, "We are going to teach your child to read great books, write clear sentences, do real math, shake hands, look people in the eye, and be a good citizen." In a world that feels chaotic, fractured, and glued to TikTok, the conservative school offers a sanctuary of order. It offers the promise that there are some things that do not change. In the end, conservatism in education plays a vital role in the ecosystem of democracy. It is the brake pedal. If we only had progressives, we might drive the car off a cliff in our rush to try every new idea. We might sever our connection to the past completely, leaving us adrift with no identity and no wisdom. Conservatism reminds us that we are not the first people to live on this earth. It reminds us that we have inherited a house that we did not build. It teaches us to respect the craftsmanship of that house before we start knocking down walls. The excellent educator usually finds themselves somewhere in the middle, but they lean on conservative principles more than they admit. Every time a teacher insists on silence so a student can think, every time they correct a grammar mistake, every time they tell a story about Abraham Lincoln or Martin Luther King Jr. with reverence, and every time they demand that a student try harder because they know the student is capable of excellence, they are channeling the conservative spirit. They are guarding the flame. They are ensuring that the light of the past is not extinguished, but is passed, bright and burning, into the hands of the future.